European Council will be awaiting a clear message from the UK on the way forward.
The European Council said EU leaders are awaiting for a clear message from the UK on a way forward on Brexit. The UN's Migration Agency reported that over 20,000 people were displaced recently due to hostilities in Libya.
I expect them to take action now because there's not much time.
A young Swedish activist has called on European Parliament to take action on climate change now. These are the headlines. More coming on your way on the world today on iAfrica TV. It's 10:30 p.m. in Istanbul and 11:30 a.m. in Washington State, 19:30 GMT here in the Gambia. You're watching the World Today Evening Bulletin. We now kick off with our first story. A TRRC team led by the Research and Investigations Unit, which has been engaged in searching for the remains of victims of November 11, 1994 at Yundum Barracks, has discovered the remains of 7 victims believed to have been the officers of the GNA killed during the November 11 incident. The discovery comes after close to 2 weeks of digging. Members of the media and families of victims attended the scene of the exhumations. The chairman of the TRRC, Dr. Lamin J. Sise, other commissioners as well as senior members of the TRRC visited the site this morning. Sajo Sambu has more.
Remains of 7 soldiers victims of the November 11, 1994 coup attempt was fully revealed to the press and victim families respectively at the Yundum Barracks. The process came barely a month after some families appeared before the commission and appealed for the remains to be given back to them for a proper burial. The TRRC, led by Chairman Dr. Lamin J. Sise, headed a delegation comprising TRRC staff and the legal team to inspect bodies that were exhumed by TRRC Research and Investigation team led by Superintendent Thomas Gomez, forensic archaeologist. At the Yundum Barracks, Isa Fall, the lead counsel, briefed the family members and the press who attended the exhumation that they should not expect to see full skeleton.
Dama leen bëgg won nag ne niw boo xam ne ñu ngi ko roob ay ñaar fukki at juróom ca gannaaw.
Alafta fala leen ko frew me ya lonko ya landi sanji muwan anin lulu komanto.
soo ko gasee sulli fa lang fa fekka dootud nuru la nga xamoon.
Ni ya sing han fo ya taraje anim fente muliya la ite mellon nu.
Dinañ gis ay yax.
Nsi kulolu je mbewlu jelale.
Dinañ gis ay boñ.
Mbe ñingulu jelale.
Xëj na dinañ gis ay yére.
Ase keno fang nsi dolu la feto fatol tare bala.
waaye la ngeen yaakaaroon di gis mooy gis nit ki yëppam mut cëram yëpp mut loolu mënatut a am.
Bar doolu si yaakaar ñi nay si jikki ñi na koy be moo ñi mu mewle jëla feeto fato ni moo hadama di mu jaato ako be kole yàlla le pour kasoto.
waaye yàlla may nañu am na luñ gis loo xam ne dina dimbale ñeneen ñi ci yéen.
ako bari ala yende ma.
At the scene where the murdered soldiers were buried in mass grave, the archaeologist Thomas Gomez explained the process.
But we know when it comes to identification of graves, witness testimonies rarely help. Day before yesterday, we came around this end. And these are the remains that we have recovered. So I'll take time to give you a rundown of all that we have here. All right. Number 11 here.
Number 11.
Yes, I'll just give you. Remnants of the femurs. Those are some leg bones. The humerus. The hand bones. And those are some few small bones that we are also able to recover. Most of the bones have decomposed by now. As you know, this is about 25 years ago. But from what we have gathered here, we could confirm that there were 7 individuals that were buried here. We've recovered their teeth as well. And these are some of we can only rely on the teeth to be able to do the identification. Other artifacts were also recovered in the process. Among the artifacts is a ring. The importance of this ring, like I've already had a session with the family members, it's of immense value to us, to the investigation team.
After the site visit, family members of the victims took turn to express their thoughts.
Sona nañ
bi alhamdulillah
way tay dinañ santa yalla
bin nata na ñinje
tay ñew nañ ba gis li
mbe duwala na friend dingol ye
ñu nge ñaanal ñi dem ñi jitu
alaw mar ale dundi janatul firdaus kono
yal na leen yalla dugal ci aljana
be dindim fatale
parce que ñom ñep xalé lañ bi no de
ma be fala watom ne age of 26 afata wala
rakam bi mo de ñaar fukki at magam bi mo de ñaar fukki at ak juroom ben la am
bara atele be lorin na family la
way mo taxawé won njobot
mam fen soton ci mim faalié
amuñ luñu leen mëna wax
ni ñu ka faale ko al nimbara
xana ñu wax leen ne jërëjën
ay sédé ne dëggal la ñi dañ leen rayon
ay sédo yitan dinna ko ñil ye faale nu
feñal suñ seen ay yax
ye kulolu fintindi
feñal seen ay yenen bagage
ye la fendolu fanali je
kon lolu dañoo delu wat santé ko yalla
ako ton si muru nga ala jay nga tentu
delu wat gërem TRRC
na TRRC fanan jay
di leen sant di leen gërem
mbelu la ko
suma joy yi may joy ni
akabe kumbo men
joy man da suma mag bi lay joy
amam fem kumbo fa ko to
tay mo amé won famille bi
katu dimbaya be wala bulunu
suma pa dem na fa tatti good years
aka fata ta fu sanji tan sa
EMC ser lay amon yaaka gannaaw yalla
akoy man jiki soto fo faning ala
mom rek mo amé won famille bi
dimbaya be wala bulunu
gannaaw bi gañu ba tay
ako EMC se wala mbira fata lu mem fo bi
ba tay famille ba ngi tassaro
hanim bi dimbal be janjandi
nekku téré la ko joy de
ako manke bi dem man ma ya kumbo
gana ko joy di bi gañu ba legi suma xel demé rek ma ngi joy man ko
ako meta kumbo la kabiril lu mem ko keta fo kana bula bila na hakilo bula tala do aka kumbo.
The exhumation of the murdered soldiers will continue in the coming days, as the lead archaeologist Thomas Gomez believes that there are still some graves inside the Camp Toby dog, and the research team, as instructed, will left no stone unturned in executing their mandate. Reporting for Africa TV News, I am Sajo Samu.
Turkey will not accept statements that questions its status in NATO, the country's presidential spokesperson said, defending its multidimensional foreign policy. Tensions between the US and Turkey have reached a fever pitch in recent months, with Turkey set to begin receiving the advanced S-400 Russian surface-to-air missile system that Washington said will jeopardize Turkey's role in the F-35 fighter jet program and which could trigger congressional sanctions. I have more on that story. Turkey will not accept statements that question its status in NATO, the country's presidential spokesperson said, defending its multidimensional foreign policy. Ibrahim Kalin dismissed comments aimed at Turkey's membership in NATO amid a row with the US over the purchase of a Russian missile defense system, asserting that Turkey will continue to take steps that will strengthen its position in the transatlantic alliance. Tensions between the US and Turkey have reached a fever pitch in recent months, with Turkey set to begin receiving the advanced S-400 Russian surface-to-air missile system that Washington said will jeopardize Turkey's role in the F-35 fighter jet program and which would trigger congressional sanctions. Additionally, earlier this month, US Vice President Mike Pence said Turkey's purchase of the S-400 system could potentially pose a risk to NATO. Turkey must choose: does it want to remain a critical partner in the most successful military alliance in the history of the world, or does it want to risk the security of that partnership, Pence said. Kalin said it is not possible for Turkey to accept such statements, adding it is not a single country that will determine the status of a country in NATO, but all NATO member countries. Kalin also rejected sanctions threat from Washington through the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which was passed in 2017 against Iran, North Korea and Russia, and combat their influence across the globe. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Alhassan Sise. The visiting U.S. high-level delegation will be at the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission tomorrow, Thursday, April 18 at 1 p.m., according to a press release from the Commission. The U.S. delegation is in the Gambia to support the progress made in transitional justice, human rights, and building democracy. The delegation comprises officials from State Departments, Office of Global Criminal Justice, and the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. The delegation will also be attending tomorrow's hearing at the Commission to demonstrate the U.S. support for the TRRC's important role to ensure accountability, justice, promoting democracy and good governance, and preventing future abuses. The delegation from US arrived in the Gambia this week to support the Gambia's transitional justice. The President of European Council has asked the UK for clear message on Brexit after its extension until the end of October, with a review expected in June. Leaders of the European Union agreed on April 10 to grant extension to the UK on Brexit to the end of October, with review in June rather. The UK was set to leave the EU on March 29, but after failing 3 times to secure the deal in the House of Commons, May was given an extension to the EU. In a 2016 referendum, British voters decided to leave the bloc after a more than 40-year-long membership. Here is an insight.
The European Council will be awaiting a clear message from the UK on a way forward. If the withdrawal agreement were to be ratified, the extension period will automatically end on the first day of the following month. I have strongly opposed to the idea that during this further extension, the UK should be treated as a second-category member state. No, it cannot. Therefore, I also ask you to reject similar ideas if they were to be voiced in this House. I know that on both sides of the channel, everyone, including myself, is exhausted with Brexit, which is completely understandable.
Coming up after the break, a record high number of diplomats from Arab countries gathered in Moscow to take part in the 5th ministerial session of the Russian Arab Cooperation Forum.
Nijaay saako maalo bi jeex na te diwlin bi jeex na dama am pour dem marché.
ah Pape dégg nga li ndaw si wax de léegi nag dimbali ma rek nga lebal ma benn bidon diwlin ak benn saako maalo soo ci mënee boole soble sax nga boole ko ci sama doom Lamine su yónnee xaalis bi rek ma fay la sa xaalis.
non bu diwlin diwlin ma mënuma la ko lebal parce que doo ma dee fay on time loolu moo tax mënuma laa lebal.
daal yow sa doom bi fan la nekk sama doom mu ngi Angleterre. Angleterre daal xanaa yoo yëgloo ba lu service ku ko am fu waay mun a nekk si àdduna bi mën na laa yónnee ndugg si nu gaaw te amul benn jafe-jafe amul ne réew bi dafa po te xoolal soble diwlin maalo pompiteer ak li ñu mel sooy yegg baluwo.com di nga ko am gis nga ku bëgg a jëfandikoo baluwo service bi dugal sa Play Store nga type baluwo.com downloadal app bi nga jëfandikoo ko ci nu mu gën a gaawee.
Welcome back. We remind you that you're watching the World Today Evening Bulletin. Let's now take a look at the remaining stories. A young Swedish climate activist, Greta Thunberg, was invited to address the European Parliament after weeks of school climate change strikes around the world, inspired by the Swedish teenager. Speaking on behalf of young people who cannot yet vote in upcoming European Parliament elections, Thunberg called on the European Parliament to take action on climate change. Greta Thunberg began last year with a one-person strike at the Swedish Parliament, and which has grown into a global movement with students all over the world planning similar events. Here is an insert.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I am a climate activist from Sweden, and I received an invitation to speak in here, and I accepted it because this is a great opportunity to get out a message and to sort of speak on behalf of the young people who share the same concern as me, concerns about the climate crisis and ecological breakdown. I expect them to take action now because there's not much time. We still have an open window that is not going to be open for long, in which we can act. So we need to take that opportunity to do something, and they should really do something. I think it's essential to vote in the European election. I'm not going to vote in the European election because I can't, and so therefore it's especially important for those who actually can vote to use that in order to speak on behalf of people like me who are going to be affected very much by this crisis. To the young Europeans fighting for their future, I would say that you should continue because you are doing a great job. There has been hundreds of thousands of students in Europe only who have been school striking for the climate, and they have made history, I think, so they should be very proud of themselves.
A record high number of diplomats from Arab countries gathered in Moscow to take part in the 5th ministerial session of the Russian-Arab Cooperation Forum. While Russia and Arab countries declare that they have ideal relations behind the closed doors, it seems that they have more differences than they want to show. Some of them are linked to conflicting positions inside the Arab League. The participating countries confirmed their adherence to the two-state solution of the Palestine conflict. More in this report. The foreign ministers of 14 Arab states attended the 5th meeting of the Russian-Arab Cooperation Forum in the capital, Moscow. Speaking at a news conference following the meeting, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said all the participants spoke in favor of applying diplomatic means to ease tensions in the Middle East. He said the countries were united in rejection of foreign interference in internal affairs of states in the region and demanded respect of their sovereignty and territorial integrity. The participating countries confirmed their adherence to the two-state solution of the Palestine conflict, Lavrov said. In this regard, Moscow is ready to organize talks between the stakeholders in Russia, he added. The Russian diplomat also stressed the importance of normalization of ties between Iran and the Gulf nations. Saudi Foreign Minister Abdel Al-Jubeir said the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was discussed at the meeting. The need to respect international law and UN resolutions regarding the occupied territories was reiterated. The importance of a peaceful settlement to the war in Libya was another topic of the meeting, Jubeir told reporters. Commenting on the upcoming Russian presidential visit to the kingdom, he said, "We are just working on finalizing the dates." Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Alhassan Sise. The United Nations support mission in Libya has condemned the increased use of heavy weapons and indiscriminate shelling that has damaged civilian houses, schools and infrastructure, and called for a humanitarian truce to allow for emergency service to access civilians trapped in conflict-impacted areas. UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric told reporters in New York that many families fleeing conflict areas are heading towards central Tripoli and its immediate surroundings. Here is an insight.
The UN support mission in Libya condemns the increased use of heavy weapons and indiscriminate shelling that has damaged civilian houses, schools, and infrastructure. The Secretary General's Special Representative, Ghassan Salameh, continues his outreach to call for a humanitarian truce to allow for emergency services to access civilians trapped in conflict-impacted areas. The number of people displaced due to hostilities in and around Tripoli is now approaching 20,000, according to the UN's migration agency. More than 2,500 people were displaced in the last 24 hours alone. Many families fleeing conflict areas are heading towards central Tripoli and its immediate surroundings, but more than 14,000 of those displaced have sought safety outside of the capital, including Tajura, Almaya, Ain Zara, and Tarhuna. More than 8,000 people have been reached with some form of humanitarian assistance. Libyan first responder teams report that civilian evacuations are increasing, with a significant number of casualties among those evacuated. 50 civilian casualties have so far been confirmed, including 14 deaths. These figures represent a case that could be individually verified and must therefore be considered a minimum. The Secretary General's Special Envoy is working with the government and all other parties in Libya, as well as international actors, trying to push for cessation of hostilities so we can move on with the political process. I think Mr. Salameh was very clear that the national conference was not canceled. He wanted to go forward with it, but there is an obvious impossibility to go forward while people are shooting at each other and while civilians are being shot at.
Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today Evening Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, log on to our website, iafrica.tv. I am Alhassan Sise. Bye for now.
diwli lanni maaro lanni
fop lanni
awa joni mi anda honno guerdeten e ngal ɗo sabu e ngal ɗo Ibrahima joni naaltaw joni mi anda se yaha e kapitiki ñawloɗen ha humpodire e makko est ce que on noon e warude
waɗen noon awa
ane kode Ibrahima ma ko to woni
mo Amérique
ko Amérique a woni kede humpitaki fiɓe musidɓe men baluwo
baluwo
ɓe andanɗa kala ko wawɗa wonde e aduna o si a rewi e juuɗe maɓɓe a jonnay ɗo département o Gambia hara no weeɓi a yahata kadi taw ko mbuɗi ɗi no ƴawi walla no jippi ɓe haalantama ko kala ko falɗa ko sengo ñamete indi nebba maaro basal pomme de terre kala ko rewi ɗon a hendoto hara no weeɓi kadi wona ɗum ɗon tu ɓe aɓe jonnira e mobile phone siko ɗum kadi laptop kala ko wayrode ɗiɓe hay kaspawa ɓe wawma jonnude kadi sa fala humpitade ko weeɓi ƴetti google account ma on joni data toon waɗa download app maɓɓe on ayiyay kala ko humpima e maɓɓe toon ɓe weeɓiyama
ka wonɗa wo e aduna on
kala ko wawɗa
a jonnanayi wonɗo ka leydi men Gambia ɗo dépense
hara no weeɓi ha ma si ɗum non fof no neeɓi immoɗen joni mi ɗowtama ka place maɓɓe jana
waɗen joni
yiya heeɓa ko falaɗa
waɗen kisam